feel a
Mhm.
bit different, right? Or something feels off, or I feel a
Mhm.
little bit tense, or I feel more tired, or I have more headaches, or whatever it might be. All these things that deviate slightly is a signal to readjust and that some need is not being met. Yeah. All of them literally, and this is what I find so fascinating about this human organism, is it's literally wired to constantly send us a feedback loop all the time. So whenever something start feeling off, it's because something has been negated. If you start feeling disconnected in your relationship, it's because there's some needs that are not being expressed. Yeah. Something is coming out of balance. If you start feeling excessively tired, slow down and figure out, wait, something is going on here. If we don't even know how to listen to the cue that's telling us that
Right.
something is out and there's needs not being met, then that's very hard. So I think the first part is to learn to notice these cues. And they
Mm.
tend to be something where you feel out of balance. It doesn't feel very good. Maybe you feel more angry. Maybe you feel more tired. Maybe you're starting to get depressed. Maybe you feel more anxious than you normally do. Whatever it is, start noticing what is deviating, and that's telling you something is starting to drift. And behind that will always be needs, whether it's need for comfort, reassurance, more sleep, whatever it is, there is a need there that's not being met in that moment, right?
I like it. I like it. Right? It's like you were saying in the other episode, we know we're hungry because our body tells us, and we're
Yes.
used to paying attention to the need for food,
Yes.
right? And we can grow in our awareness of what signal our body is giving us
Yes.
if we know, almost like we know the if we begin to learn the frequency to tune into it,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I think about, we've named one today, which is touch,
Yes.
right? So a need that you may not be paying attention to might be the need of being heard, just heard, listened to,
Yes.
right? And a need, the need of praise.
Yeah.
And that one's really hard for a lot of people to swallow,
Yes.
right? The need of being seen and acknowledged,
Hmm.
right? And I think about how often I heard the phrase growing up, not when I say grow, I just mean everywhere,
Yes.
right? Schools, shows, coaches, all from everywhere imaginable. The phrase I heard growing up was, "What do you want? An attaboy?"
Yeah.
Right? Are you familiar with that phrase?
I haven't heard that particular phase, but I think it's kind of implied in what you're mentioning and
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah.
What do you want? An attaboy?
Yeah.
Like, or people will say, what am I supposed to thank you for doing your job?"
Yes.
Right? And so you hear that if you are wanting someone to acknowledge you, then something must be wrong with you,
Yeah.
right? And I was thinking, you know, that every day, my wife and I, in some way, acknowledge one another's efforts.
Yeah.
I, if it's a slow day, it would be 5 times a day.
Yes.
If it's a slow day, right? If it's and it's something simple, we're talking the simplest thing. If you're listening now and going, "How can we start doing this?" Right? Well, let's pay attention to what your partner is doing,
Yeah.
because so often we miss out because we're so focused on what they didn't do.
Yes.
But even something simple, like I get up and I'll make the coffee, right? And my wife will come down and she'll have a cup of coffee and she'll go, "Oh, thank you so much. I really, this is a great cup of coffee."
Yeah.
And
And you know what?
just,
This is,
just being seen.
yes, and this is really part of what we talked about earlier, this the slow drifting apart, right? When this is missed, because it's such a core need to know that you're valued and appreciated for the things that you do every day. And that could be coming home and saying, "Hey, you're such an amazing mother." The
Yeah,
way you just engage there and were able to do that, that's like amazing. Or, "Thank you for all these things you do for me." And often we forget that. And over time, that becomes a slow drifting, right? We forget
that's right.
all these little mini moments because
That's right.
really, relationships, long-term relationships are not about these huge gestures. We often think, oh, how big is your
Yeah,
wedding gonna be, right? Oh, how many people came? And we think that somehow define the
we think about that.
relationship.
That's what Hollywood teaches us, right?
Exactly. But
Like everybody's heart's warming moments, and
yes,
it's like,
and then
yeah,
it will last forever. But the truth is, it's about these mini moments, right? That keeps the glue going. That's like what keeps it sticking, right? Instead of that slow drifting. So I think it's so important what you're saying. And I even thought when before, when I was mentioning about how it can be really difficult to express our needs, but I also thought, and you say, how can we notice it? I can give an example of this, even though it may be a bit of an old example, but it's like, I know that it's very difficult for me to remember names, right? So
yeah,
sometimes if I have to meet like a new friend of my partner, then I can get a little stressed because I'm like, oh, what if I forget their name, right? And that could feel really awkward. But now, a lot of times people might not have engaged with that, but I noticed because I'm so used to checking in that, oh, I felt a bit of tension. I know that this deviate from my normal set point. Normally, I don't feel tension in my stomach. I had a bit of tension, right? And I know, oh, that's a signal. Then I ran to pee twice to the toilet. I know, oh, that means I'm a bit nervous because
yeah,
because then I always empty my bladder more, which is normal when we have a fight or flight response, right? So
that's right.
because I learned what the signals are when I'm out of balance, I picked up, oh, I guess, and normally I wouldn't have known because it wasn't like I had panic attack or anything, but it was a low level stress, right? But I picked
That's right.
up the signals because I trained myself to notice these cues. And then I said, oh, okay, what is it really that I need to now feel calm? Because then it's likely going to go better if I feel calm. And I thought, you know what? It would be really calm me down if my partner introduced me because then she'll tell me their name again. Yeah, on the spot so I don't forget. And then I could just come and say, because, I have a model that normally people will respond in a kind way to my needs, I could say, hey, baby, this would be really helpful for me when we meet your friend. I know you told me their name and talked about them loads, but it's a new person for me. Could you just introduce me and say their name? And she'll
Mm,
be like, yeah, of course, no problem. And then, my stomach calmed down. So I had listened to what the cue was, right? I listened to what the need was. And when I then
mhm.
got the need, then the system reset basically, right? And the stress was, so that's just a small, tiny
No,
example.
I think it's a great example because I think about, like, what people have probably just been through and, like, will go through again is the office party
Hmm.
where they go with their partner, with their spouse, with, whoever they're with, to the office party where one person is gonna know everybody,
Mhm.
and then the other one is going to feel like the odd person out,
Yeah.
right? And so there's this nervousness, and oftentimes this can create the silent treatment going home from the office party. What's your problem? Why are you
Mhm.
so upset? What's wrong with you tonight?
Yeah.
Right? And often it's
What do you expect me to not talk to him? And they're completely missing because you're
the whole
right.
point.
The needs was not expressed, right? The need was that, hey, I felt really alone and I really needed your support. And
That's right.
so I didn't feel alone, right?
And the need of going into that moment
Yes,
with a bit of a game plan,
exactly.
right?
That I needed your support. Can you introduce me to some people?